What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Bayley Pop here, and today we're going to be talking about why My Hero Academia is fantastic and also kind of the worst at the same time. Let's go! Hi guys, Editing Bayley here. I'm going to appear at least one more time in this video, but I do want to say really quick that you don't need to worry about spoilers. Anything that I say is just general plot points and character development, but I don't give away any important details in the story that will spoil you. It's just my general opinion on things. The most spoilery thing that I kind of say but don't say is me showing a picture of a character in their newest costume, which isn't really a spoiler, because if you Google that character, then you'll very quickly see that image of their new costume. But that picture of that costume isn't in itself a spoiler to the rest of the plot of the story. That's all, bye! Alright guys, welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, my name is Bayley. I talk about whatever I want to for the most part at this point. I also collect vinyl figures and different kinds of collectibles like Loungefly, but I also am a huge Disney, anime, and Marvel fan, and today I want to talk to you guys about My Hero Academia. When I first started watching My Hero Academia, it was a while ago. I think they were maybe on the second season. I really liked it because I hadn't been into the anime scene as much back then. There were a few animes that I had watched, but I didn't have any friends / couldn't find any friends that also liked anime at the time. I barely had any that liked Marvel or Star Wars or Disney. They kind of just didn't care about anything. So there were very few animes I did watch. For instance, Sword Art Online and My Hero Academia were some of the first. I think I was around 14 to 16 at this point. Hi, Editing Bayley here. What's up, Home Slice? So what I was going to say is I mixed up my timelines. I, for some reason, thought My Hero Academia came out way earlier than it did. So I was like, what year did it come out? It came out in 2018 was the second season of My Hero. So I would have been almost 20 or had just turned 20, which is crazy to think about. And I was around 15 when Sword Art Online came out. So that was like a 5-year gap. I also like blocked out a lot of that time in my life just because I was depressed for a lot of it. So it low-key just all feels the same to me. But anyway, on that depressing note, back to the video. I don't think I even knew what Naruto was, and there wasn't really an anime scene online yet that I could find. When I started My Hero Academia, I was still very into Marvel and everything like that. I am now, don't get me wrong. I still love Marvel. I know that they have their things that people have their gripes with, but I still like Marvel. And it was very interesting to see a show that kind of combined the worlds of superpowers and like modern culture, our modern world, and put them together. Another show that kind of does this that I know of now is One Punch Man. I will say though, for a very long time, I didn't like Deku. And I'm still kind of on the fence about him, but I like him way more now. And I think a lot of people have this issue. Some people love him because, at least at first, he was a golden retriever boy. A lot of people don't because he feels very diluted and kind of mainly pushed through the plot by other characters. Which is low-key the point of having other characters around, is to help encourage the story of the main character sometimes, but I won't get into that. My Hero Academia actually kind of got lost within itself, in my opinion, because of this. That, and they had built a world that was so big and had so many characters that they at first were just focusing on the characters within his class, which worked. Then they kind of just completely abandoned that. A lot of the people that enjoyed My Hero Academia at the beginning didn't continue to enjoy it all the way through because of that. And personally, I think I kind of felt the same way. I was never a die-hard My Hero Academia fan, but I still really liked the show. And you can kind of see what I mean by looking at the original trio versus the trio that we kind of have now. But the first characters that really embraced Deku and helped him along his journey were Ochako and Tenya. And for the first like season or two, you see a lot of them and they have really good character development. And then they kind of just drop them and they start focusing on all of these other plots, and they for some reason don't bring them along. They do incorporate them from time to time to kind of remind you, hey, we did this thing with this character. So they should be able to say this one thing and Deku should feel moved by it. But that's kind of how they treat all of the characters in the series. For instance, Mirio was a huge part of, I think it was season 4, And then after that, they don't really incorporate him in anything. We haven't seen Eri in also at least a season, really. Hero is really good at taking those thousands of characters that they have done like very many backstories for and having them pop in every once in a while, literally pop in with Mirio. It almost creates a lack of fluidity in the story from start to finish, even though technically they aren't finished with the anime yet. The progression of All Might and Deku's stories so far, at least in the anime, the story at the beginning, mainly because it needed to, had such a huge emphasis on All Might, and now he's kind of like a shadow in the background that they have around Deku because he, in theory, needs to be there. At the moment, in season 6, they literally just have him driving around trying to support Deku. But again, I think it's because of the whole trap of they had 1,000 characters and now they don't have enough time to dedicate to any of them. Deku is going through all of this, and he does become less of a crybaby, let's really be honest, towards the later seasons. But beyond the fact that he just really wanted to be a hero, and now he's being a hero, I'm trying not to spoil things. His only character trait essentially is self-sacrifice and determination, which is good, but compare him to Naruto. Naruto has those same traits, but he has so much more to him than that. He was a genuinely charming individual that we got to take time and know outside of his missions, outside of him trying to become the Hokage. With Deku, he's just so hell-bent on this one thing that him as a person pretty much is eradicated. Don't get me wrong though, this dark hero arc, I think is what it's called, has me crying. I love this arc so much. Pretty much all of just like season 6 has me crying. I was watching I don't even remember what it was called, but it was a podcast with some people talking about the fact that a lot of dark stuff happens in My Hero Academia. For instance, the Todoroki family stories and how they went into the stories of all of the villains, and it just somehow doesn't feel dark. My guess is because of the pacing of the story. It almost doesn't allow itself to feel that deep. But then they also talked about how for One Piece, even though it's more of a cartoony kind of style and not a traditional anime kind of style, that you always understand the depth of a situation. For My Hero Academia, you don't really feel that at all times. In my opinion, it feels like that almost because it feels like a Marvel movie. And let me explain that. Like a Disney movie or a Marvel movie, when they have dark situations, they almost always resolve it within that movie and everybody comes out okay. Maybe a person dies, but then they just move on. My Hero Academia does that. For instance, we did a whole section about Mr. Aizawa and yellow hair guy that I can't remember the name of. And what's his name? Konagiri. And everybody was super invested in that. And then they just left it. Nope. We're done with that. We're going to move on to something completely different. So it's not that it doesn't have the potential to really dig deep into certain things. It's just that it doesn't. They only use it to progress the story, but then they don't resolve it. And people want those resolutions. I do like some of the ships. I do think some ships get in the way of character arcs though. And since they were doing a really good thing with Ochako and then they kind of just tossed that. Anyway, overall, I think my favorite seasons were like the first 2, maybe 2.5. I don't remember everything. And then like the end of the 5th season and the 6th season. The 6th season is so good. You know, this is a different kind of video for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any tips on how I should talk about all of this stuff in a more constructive way, I don't know. Leave it in the comments because I really do want to talk about this kind of stuff with you and I'm learning how. A huge shout out to all of the wonderful people that are subscribed to me on this channel or are following me across my other platforms. Your support means a lot to me. And always remember, you are loved, you are valued, and you are enough. Bye!